All right, here we are. It's the 15th of November. We're on the shores of the Ottawa River to do some flying today. Not with my existing Q500 from Unique, but my new Mavic Pro, which is so small it actually fits in here with room to spare. So Terry's just showing up. He's going to bring his Phantom 3. I'm going to fly my Q500. Flew it yesterday. I know how fast it can go, not nearly as fast as this can go. And we'll see the differences in quality of video. That all coming up on this episode of Cruising Off Duty. So here's Terry. He's bringing his Phantom 3.
Good day.
We did a bit of flying yesterday, but due to my human error, I had the exposure way too low, so that footage was kind of useless until later when I went to the protected forest by my house. But we're going to do some distance flying because from here we can see for miles in every direction. Well, we were in a soccer field yesterday, and so you really couldn't go very far before you lost sight of your drone. So got some rapids to check out down there, and then we have, I'm going to see if my drone can get all the way over to that bridge down there by the downtown Ottawa. So let's see how it goes. Okay, just to go over the size difference again. This is my Q500 in the smallest possible travel way I can do it. As you can see on my back, it's pretty darn big, even in its smallest form. This is the Mavic Pro. It was in that camera bag I showed you, and it was actually in the camera bag with room to spare. So this can go in anything. This is the way it is when it's in its smallest form. And even when I unfold the arms, it's really not that big. You just hold that for a sec, Terry. Yep. So to get it ready to fly, it's 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And from that, you're pretty much ready to go. You don't even have to undo these blades, but I just do it as a precaution. And you're ready to fly. Ta-da! Simple. So, problem with this drone is the back clearance is not enough. I've heard other people on videos saying that as well. That's probably going to come really close to hitting that rock. And if you're on grass, you pretty much turn into a weed whacker, cutting all the grass. So good point, right? Mavic should have really made the back legs longer. So one thing I've had a problem with is people have said they've been able to put these in with their case on. My case on my iPhone 6 Plus is not very big, and yet I find that it just doesn't want to go in. You really got to jam it in, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to take my case off. All right. So then you get in your iPhone, and the way they say is you turn on your Mavic first, then you turn on your controller, then you go to your DJI Go app, in that order. That radio tower over there is where we're going to be heading. It's Phantom 3. Okay, we're going to go flying, but I'm going to zip it up to about 8 times the speed just so we don't waste time getting across the river. So we were both aiming for the same radio tower, or so I thought. It ends up that I flew to one radio tower and Terry flew to a different one. Originally the plan was to have Terry and I compare our footage to see the difference in cameras. You see, the Mavic has a narrower field of view. It has a 78-degree field of view, while the Phantom series is more wide angle, more like 93. The other thing is the Mavic has touch to focus, so it can focus on things close and the things in the background will be blurry, or vice versa. You can focus on things further away and maybe things close up will be blurry. You'll see that example later. If you're not sure what you're trying to focus on, there's a C1 button on the bottom of the controller, and the C1 button is defaulted to center focus. I usually just do that. Every once in a while I just tap that button just to make sure anything in the middle of the screen is what is being focused on. Now this is just standard Mavic video. I haven't color corrected it or picked any of the LUTs or gone to any of the special film styles that the Mavic has preloaded. I just went with the standard 4K footage. I'm really quite happy with the resolution. Everything looks crisp, the colors look good, so I can't say why I'd want to switch out of the standard color scheme. If you're looking for a specific film type look, I've been told the best thing to do is film in art mode with the sharpness turned down to -1. That'll give you a very flat profile when you're recording, Then in post-production you could change the color LUTs to whatever you want to suit the type of look you're going for. Okay, at this point I'm 5,000 feet away from my controller and I'm pointing at the radio tower I thought we both agreed we were heading to, but it seems Terry's gone to a different radio tower, one of those probably down there. Anyways, it's worked out to be just as well anyway. Terry's gimbal just seemed to have some issue where it vibrated the whole time. I looked at the footage later and his camera was shimmying so bad it really isn't a good comparison to my camera anyway. So anyways, at this point I decide, since we're totally split up, that I'll just head to where I want to go, which is the rapids up by Britannia Yacht Club. Okay, as you head towards the rapids, obviously I had to start flying directly towards the sun, and no camera, no matter whose camera it is going to look good when you're flying into the sun. You get flares and you get weird coloration variations that aren't natural. So anyways, this slipway was kind of interesting to look at, but coming at it from the other angle would have been better with the sun behind me. Okay, so at this point I decided to get nice and close to the rapids. It's still not the great angle to be filming because I'm still going towards the sun, but still looks better getting nice and close than to be way up high. So at this point I kind of realized I'm wasting my time filming the rapids from this angle and I need to go to the other side and film it coming back. So that's what I do right now. Okay, now that I'm on the other side of the river, I have the sun at my back, and now I can totally see the rapids and there's no glare off the water. You'll notice with the tap to focus that the stuff right in the middle and the bottom of the screen is crystal clear. You can see right through the water to the rocks. But if you look up at the distance at the buildings in the background, they're just a wee bit out of focus, and I guess that's the way the camera's supposed to be. It acts just like a DSLR camera. But the controller with the iPhone has a touchscreen, so if I decided I wanted to focus on the buildings in the background, then it would become in focus and the stuff in the foreground would be a little bit out of focus. I think it's a good look because it looks like you're filming with a real cinematic camera, not a glorified GoPro or an iPhone. Now I think at this point I should hit the C1 button one more time to refocus on the center of the screen. It seems like the stuff at the bottom of the screen is in focus and the stuff to the middle and upper half is a little bit out of focus. Okay, so I fly past Terry and I go over to the buildings on the Ontario side. I start filming some of the Ottawa River Parkway. It's a much greener area on the Ontario side, so it's good for getting the color saturation. I know the Mavic and most modern drones are governed at 400 feet, so I lift myself up to see how tall this building is. And 400 feet is just over top of it, because once I get to a certain point, it just won't let me go any higher. So at this point, I've been flying around on my one and only battery for long enough, and it's time to bring her home. So let's zip up the speed a bit to get back. Even in fast speed, you'll notice there's a bit of a shadow from the props coming back towards the sun. It only happens at certain angles. Okay, I took off from that black box. Let's see when I hit home where the drone actually lands. It's supposed to land right at or near that spot, but it's off by a bit. All right, just to conclude my flight, that was awesome. This little drone, which I could fold up and make much smaller than it looks right now, is going to change everything. I'm going to bring this thing with me everywhere I go, just on the off chance that I need to fly a drone. You never know when you'll need to fly a drone. The other thing is I got to get more than one battery. This is an issue, because as much fun as this is, you don't want to have just 20-25 minutes of flying. You want to have like 45 minutes of flying. So at least 2 batteries, probably 3, and then I'll be good. Good stuff, Mavic. Good stuff. Okay, while Terry and I are waiting for my battery to charge, I wanted to talk about some of the features that this has that my Q500 and actually I don't think the Phantom 3 don't have. Collision avoidance. Those 2 cameras on the front will stop the drone from hitting things. I've seen many videos on YouTube proving it. People will deliberately try and run into a wall or a tree to see if it'll actually work. It will stop about 10 feet away from anything and tell you on screen that there's something that it can't get through and won't let you, even if you push the joystick forward, won't let you actually crash into it even if you try. So, flipping to the bottom, there's 4 cameras. These 2 here are sensors. They're sonar sensors, and it senses how high you are above the ground, so that it has things like terrain tracking, that if you say follow me, but you start walking up a hill and you started at 50 feet above you, as you go up a hill, this will continue to be 50 feet above you, and it knows where the terrain is. So it knows to change elevation based on the ground below it, and that's what those sonar cameras there. These 2 are optical cameras. These are the ones that, if you do it correctly, you're supposed to take off, hover for a few seconds, and then move. What happens is during those few seconds, it's analyzing, taking pictures of the ground so it can memorize where it is. when you say fly home, it flies home GPS to approximately where you started, and then it looks for the camera angle, and it'll orientate itself to be exactly over top of where it took a picture from, and then lower. Now, most people like me, too impatient when I take off. I tend to take off and instantly move forward, and I often find that because of that, when I do say hit home, it still comes pretty close, but it's probably landing 5 feet away from where I started, which is fine if you're on a grass field or an open area. But I mean, when they advertise it'll land exactly where it started, that'll only happen is if you take off and just sit there and hover for a few seconds, let it take a few pictures and orientate itself and then go. So those are some of the features. My Q500 doesn't have any of that, doesn't have accident avoidance in the front, doesn't have sonar or foot cameras on the bottom. My, as Terry will be able to say, my drone has crashed into trees, it's crashed into, well, a bunch of things. Because sometimes I'm thinking, from a distance, sometimes you think you're flying behind the tree when actually you're flying actually right into the side of the tree. I don't do stuff like that, obviously, over public areas, but if I'm in an empty field or an empty park, we've been maybe a little too aggressive with trying to judge where we are and stuff like that. Terry always says, you should fly higher, you should fly higher. No, I want to be close to the ground. I want to get some good footage. So my Q500's taken a few knocks along the way, but it still flies. So, yeah. But if it had this, it wouldn't do it. If I was flying towards a tree and it saw branches were coming, it would just stop and tell me on the screen that I'm going to hit something. So definitely some high-tech technology in this new Mavic Pro. Okay, so while I only have one battery, and Terry was nice enough to bring his battery pack to charge it, so we're going to wait for that to charge, but this is what's required with the Q500. There's no unfolding it. There's no blades are already attached. You gotta screw them in, and they're bigger blades. The good thing about this drone is it's very quiet. The Mavic's pretty quiet too, though.
Oh, it is actually very quiet.
Probably comparable to this one, but this one's very quiet. When I bought this, I was trying to decide between these two models. The Q500 and the Phantom 3 were the two best on the market at the time for prosumer drones. But I went with this one only because I liked it being quieter, and I liked it being quieter, and I liked that the camera seemed to be just a little bit better. But in hindsight, it doesn't have very good distance, and it's really slow. Now, slow is good when you're filming, but it's not so good if you're trying to get somewhere quick so you can get the scene and get back. So I'll show you right now. We tested it yesterday, and the max speed I got on this was 17 miles per hour, which mine goes 45 and Terry's Phantom 3 goes 35 miles per hour. So it's probably half the speed of the Phantom 3 and maybe a third of the speed of the of the Mavic. So yeah, but it's still a really good drone. It takes good video. This thing is just built like a beast. It can land on anything. It's so far off the ground. I didn't lose the signal on the Mavic Pro at all, and I was out that direction 4,900 feet, and then I went out that direction 4,900 feet. I guess I could have just gone in one direction the whole time and seen how far it goes, but I never lost signal. Now this one, the best I've ever done was with Terry when we were out at Pontiac Bay, and I got 2,100 feet, and that was over water. As soon as you go over trees, behind buildings, anything, you lose signal. So let's see how far on the water we go. I'm guessing it's going to be no more than 2,000 feet.
Well, you don't have distance.
I've stopped. Oh, now I got distance. 3,200 feet.
Wow, that's great.
I've never had that before. You're about to badmouth the Q500 for how I can't go very far. I'm sure you're watching this to see how the Mavic's doing, not how the Q500 does, but it was kind of impressive it went 3,200 feet. So my one and only battery has been recharged, so it's time for another flight with the Mavic. We decide to fly out along the shoreline of the Ottawa River on the Ottawa side. Check out this though. Notice how the image is not perfectly clear. I forgot to hit tap to focus. So you'll notice all of a sudden I realize it's out of focus. I tap the screen and it goes right back into focus. Or you can hit the C1 button for center focus. There. See, now it's in focus. Okay, so what we're doing on this flight is really trying to fly in just one direction to see how far we can go. Now, I know what you're thinking. Is that safe? Well, Terry brought his binoculars and we are in complete line of sight from where we took off to the whole edge of this Ottawa River. So I'm flying right along the edge of the river. Just in case I need to land, I wanted to have some land nearby, but I wanted to test this Ocusync. It's the best in technology. See, my Q500 flies by Wi-Fi. it doesn't have a very good range. In fact, the longest I've ever done before today was 2,100 feet. For some reason today I was able to go 3,200 feet. I don't know why, but that's what happened. Terry with his Phantom 3 can usually only go 5,000 or 6,000 feet. Now he got a range extender antenna for his controller and it definitely helps, but he was surprised that he got 12,000 feet before he started to lose signal. Now me, with the best technology, Ocusync, I was able to go all the way to the bridge, and then when I got to the bridge, I started to turn to go across towards the Gatineau side of the river, and when I got about a third of the way across, Mavic told me that my battery was getting low and it's time to come home. Now I didn't want to risk it, so I hit the home button instantly, and the Mavic turned, faced me, and flew all the way across the river to come home to me. Now, Mavic's going to err on the side of caution and bring you home early. And when I got back, I still had 4.5 minutes of flight time. So that means I had an opportunity to buzz the tower. Overall, I was exceedingly impressed with the Mavic. It went far and I never lost full HD signal on my controller.
Woo!
Is that some sweet stuff or what?
So what was that? What was the distance?
Oh, we got to figure out the total distance.
Yeah.
So, the bottleneck in this whole situation is my iPhone 6 Plus does not like being cold. And when it gets cold, the battery drains really fast. It told me I have less than 10% battery life left on my 6 Plus. So that could be an issue. Now, you can fly with just the controller and no phone if you don't want to look at the camera. But that's a problem. If the phone shuts off, you don't have any camera. Then all you have is the telemetry that's on the top of the controller. But the controller is what's flying, not your phone. Your phone's just really a screen. But keep in mind, your phone dies, you don't have any idea what your camera's looking at. You only got things like height and distance. So you still have a home button though, so if you do lose that, you can hit home and it'll fly right back to you. So pretty sweet. Okay, that pretty much covers the 2 days I spent with Terry flying my new drone and comparing it to my old drone and Terry's Phantom 3. Terry and I were unbelievably impressed. The Mavic is not only fast, it's got incredible distance. Your controller is always in complete contact. I never lost the feed ever in high def on my screen the whole time. It's got accident avoidance, and it's also so small and compact when you fold it up that you can literally throw it in your pocket. So that's going to change everything for me. Before, I always had to wonder, why would I bring my drone to this event? I might not use it and it's a pain in the butt to carry around. I won't be thinking that anymore. I'll be bringing my Mavic to everything. If you've enjoyed this episode, please click like, and if you've liked it enough that you want to see more of this sort of thing, please subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you'd like to follow us on a more regular basis, we also have a Facebook page at Cruising Off Duty. Until next time, this is Craig signing off, wishing you safe cruising.